What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another show. This week, privileged to have Lee Hayes on the show. Lee's currently academy coach in Japan at Yokohama FC. First met Lee when he was working at QPR. He was head of foundation phase there, and he's worked in numerous other clubs, including West Ham. So, really interesting chat with Lee. Has a specialism in individual ball mastery and skill development, a bit like myself. So great to understand his journey and the great experience he's having out there in the Far East now at Yokohama FC. So real top guy, top coach, and another one you're going to enjoy. And just to remember, the virtual academy is now back on the MyPersonalFootballCoach app, Next Gen Club. So this is unique. There's nothing else like it in the world. So I deliver technical sessions. We got Steve Salas doing mindset. Chris Robinson does tips how to get scouted. We've got physical sessions from Charlie Quigley, Southampton S&C coach, and Glenn Hicks to deliver some tactical analysis sessions, obviously Tottenham Hotspur Academy coach. So check it out. I'll put the link in the bio. It's only $9.99 a month. So for players and even coaches, you want to upskill yourself, work away, work online with some of the best practitioners in world football, check out the Next Gen Club Virtual Academy on the My Personal Football Coach app. But without further ado, let's get into the show. So Lee Hayes, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, pal. Can you give us just a brief outline of your playing and coaching journey up to this point?
Okay, so again, as every coach or most coaches, I started playing at a young age. I played for I went on trials with various different academies. Very small technical player. Back then, didn't give no love in terms of the technical side. But I ended up at a place called Cranamana International Academy. Spent a lot of time there, went on trial to Watford and stuff like that. Then I ended up in Brazil. So I played in Brazil for 6 months, 2 professional clubs out there. Came back and played different semi-pro clubs, Bishop Stortford, Dagenham Redbridge, Torquay. And then I ended up going to university and getting to coaching and teaching. So I was a teacher for 4 years. And then I ended up, I was at Spurs Development Centre. Then I went to Brentford. And then I ended up at QPR as a full-time lead phase coach. I was foundation lead. The younger ones, 8 till under 11s. Did that for like 2 to 3 years. And then I moved up to the YDP phase of under 12s to 16s. And I supported their 17 and 18s at times. So I worked with Chris Ramsey, he's a legend as well. So yeah. And then after that, I went to Kinetic. Did that for a year and a half. At the same time, I was working for West Ham under 14s lead coach. And then the opportunity came for me to go to Japan. I've always wanted to work abroad and see different challenges, different side of the world and different football. So I took that as an individual coach for the academy. And then now I'm under 18s assistant coach at Yokohama FC. Wow,
fantastic. So you've had like a long, illustrious career already. So tell us about, your first role, that working in the Spurs development centres. Which development centres were you at?
I was at New River, yeah.
New River. Yeah, of course. So you're at New River. Tell us about that then. Your experiences there. Obviously, you're technical coach, very skillful. Know your background, skillful player stuff. At the time, tell us about the methodology there and how did that suit you as a coach individually.
Again, coming from skills background, what suited me was they focused a lot on wow moments, developing players 1v1, 2v2s, and kind of getting education within that environment I think that was kind of the start of my passion, and really kind of helping players develop individually first, and get some players into the academy. That was the kind of the task. And what was really interesting was the fact that we had to do sessions where the lead person would kind of do a session and then we had to add progressions without having a session plan. So you had to adapt quickly, you had to think on your feet, and that kind of that was really, 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 really good development for me. Again, being around people like Richard Allen, Frank Shillingford, which was kind of that development New River style.
Interesting. So tell us about what would a typical session there at Spurs in the development centre look like at the time?
So we start off as individually ball juggling, different types of controls, different types of surfaces, and then we'll go into the kind of 20 minutes to 30 minutes high intensity ball mastery. So developing different combinations, very similar to a guy called Ricardo Monumers, linked with Chris Ramsey's style as well. So that was kind of like the philosophy. And then after that, we have to do 1v1 games, 2v2 games, max go up to 4v4, depending on the age group. I think at the time I was coaching the under 10s and 11s age group.
Interesting. So then what sort of what were the qualities, what did the players need to progress? The players that went on to academy for trial, what were the sort of attributes they had there?
I think, again, play at high intensity, taking on players, driving both side players, just showing them wow moments. They're the kind of players that we looked for in that development centre. And
so then tell us about Brentford then. You go to Brentford. How did that come about, first of all?
A guy called Ozzy. So Ozzy used to be my coach at Leyton Orient when I was on trial there, and some community stuff as well. So Ozzy got in contact with me and said, would I like to come over? He really wants to focus on technique. So, he wants someone to demonstrate the moves, he wants someone to demonstrate in passing and skills and stuff like that. So yeah, I took that role at the same time I was teaching. So working part-time for Brentford. Plus we had a development centre in Hackney as well. So kind of, developing that. And yeah, so that was interesting. Went there, helped the players. I used to the academy would do a session, and then I'll take probably 20 minutes to 30 minutes of all different age groups from under 9s all the way up to under 16s.
Interesting. Do you think your teaching helped you in your coaching career?
100%. So, in terms of learning behaviours, picking up on different cues of body language, feeling the room or feeling, our players learning, managing, in terms of managing a group. They're the kind of things that kind of helped me in terms of my teaching background into the coaching.
And tell us a bit about, Brentford's, that environment at the time. We've had other, ex-coaches on there. Tell us about that unique, and who are some of the coaches you were learning off there?
I was learning off a lot. Like I said, I'm a big believer. I learn off of everyone. So I see a session. So there was, now you're testing me. So there was Josh, a guy called Josh. Danny Buck was there at the time when I was there. Ozzy as well. Stuart English. They're the kind of people that I was learning off of in terms of the sessions, per session type sessions. The grit of, the players, like high intensity, finding players. Again, my job was not just to developing individuals and do the technical sessions. My job was kind of sending players in as well with our development centre in Hackney.
Interesting. So then you move on to QPR. Tell us about that opportunity. How did that come about?
Again, got introduced to Chris Ramsey, and then, that job come up as foundation lead. Again, I always wanted to work in full-time football. I did did teaching as a backup, and a way to get in. I was lead foundation for 2 to 3 years, that model of the Spurs model going into QPR and developing players, that was the kind of very philosophy and the style that kind of suited me. I had to be adaptable. I had to learn quick. I had to learn a lot about parents and players and managing coaches, which was a good experience for me as well.
Talk about that environment. Obviously, Chris, a big impact on my career as well. Big mentor to me. One of the best in the game. Sadly, ironically, just left QPR recently. Tell us about what was that like. Describe the environment, the methodology. What's it like working alongside Chris, so close to Chris, and what the unique takeaways you took from that environment, and also then just start with that, and we can talk about the full-time role. Go.
Yeah. So again, working with Chris, learning, in terms of hearing about developing. So a lot about developing individuals, the philosophy in terms of 1v1s, individual learning stuff. So, for example, looking at a player, how do you see a player? Creating wow moments. The philosophy of you play 4-3, but there's always got to be rotation. People's got interchange with movement. Players play different positions. Looking at football from different views as well. So how to challenge players within the sessions, how to challenge players within games. Again, there was loads of different coaches from different experiences from playing. You got people like Paul Furlong, you got people like Paul Hall. Chris was the main vehicle, and coaches kind of developed the philosophy within that. But yeah, it was really, really good learning in terms of getting feedback from Chris in terms of my sessions. How am I developing as a leader as well. So I learned a lot of leadership skills as well, like how to manage players. In terms of feedback, one-to-one meetings. So yeah, it was to be fair, it was a really good journey. Again, at the time, it's challenging. Working in football is not easy. But again, if you're passionate about something and you're going to learn, you're going to make mistakes. Like, that's one thing I've learned. You will make mistakes, and as long as you don't make the same mistake twice and there's not too many mistakes, then you'll be able to kind of deal with it, really.
Well, tell us, so you talk about your first full-time role in football. You've gone from being a teacher, which is pretty intense as well. What was that like? What are the main challenges about working full-time in football? What was that like in comparison to being a teacher in terms of workload and hours and stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. As a teacher, there's a lot of stress, a lot of challenges in terms of behaviour. But I think with football, of course, you're going to get dealing with parents. Parents might have opinion, and you got to learn to deal with it in the right way. Writing reports in terms of that. I was used to that because I was used to writing reports as a teacher. But you're going from where kids have to be there, whereas where in academy, kids, they want to be there. So that's the difference between teaching and coaching. It was a good experience, and I've learned a lot within the role. So going on tour, I think, is massive for development. Again, we used to go on tour once a season, different age groups, and I thought that was a great experience because I had to go over there, go over to France or Marseille or Spain and do a recce, they will say, and make sure everything's safe, and safeguarding is the top priority, and then come back and report back to head of departments and explain why this tour is good and what teams are involved and how this would develop players as well. So that was a good experience for me.
And tell us about the methodology then of the foundation phase at the club at the time. Tell us about the 9s and 10s, 11s and 12s. What's the difference? What's the progression? What are the main things? And we talked about individual development. How does that what's the balance between individual and the team, or tactical and that sort of stuff?
Like, again, from the 9s, it's all about just developing the individual in terms of not too much passing, just get players really good on the ball, give them different challenges, take on players. And then with the 10s, you're kind of looking to share it a little bit, not too much, but, you want them to recognise situations, you want them to recognise 1v1s, but also now you want them to recognise 2v1s. There wasn't kind of, and with 11s, that's when you started to build in, my teammate and my friend in terms of sharing the ball. And then you're looking at, you're going from, on the 11s with 9v9, where on the 10s could be, 6v6 still, or it could be 9v9. And then you're going on the 9s, sometimes it could be 5v5 or 6v6. So it's kind of there was just, there was no kind of formation. It was all kind of like a shape, and people rotate within that shape with the younger ones.
So tell us about, for example, game day. How did you approach that with the 9s? What sort of things you were telling them?
So again, we was telling them, can you look to score and create? So, Chris was big on those 3 words. Can you stop? So can you dominate your 1v1s? And then, in possession, can you create? So can you recognise scenarios where you can create or score as well? So they were the kind of things we was telling them. Of course, we had learning objectives for them. So, can you dominate your 1v1s? Can you get into areas where you can score? Can you dominate your 1v1s out of possession as well?
And what a typical session looked like? Is it the same sort of stuff that you did at Spurs? That sort of same format?
Yeah, very similar. So we had, with Chris, we had different set practices. We had hit the blue. We had rack or rest, so it's like 2v1 scenarios. We come up with different, again, very similar to Spurs. So we had like a 30 minutes of ball mastery, 5 minutes of ball juggling, where it will be unopposed, and then we'll go into opposed sessions where it will be 1v1, 2v2s, and then we go into different types of games. So you got your red zone game where it will be all types of finishing. Or you do kind of a possession game.
And then what would that look different in the 11s, or is that same nice 11s pretty much the same sort of typical session? I mean, you're talking about, when you talked about earlier about me and my friend and then sharing it, how do you, coach that out in your training?
So again, 11s, you're kind of more like, you focus on sharing the ball in terms of, in their games, you might say to them, okay, can you recognise to get your head up? You might play 2v1 games or 3v2. So you have two defenders coming out and 3v2, and then can you drive at the heart or recognise when to release it? They're the type of sessions that we will do, and kind of with the coaches, we tell them, look, can you recognise when to pass it or when not? But it wasn't kind of if you don't do this, you got to do this. It's kind of tell them, yeah, but then sometimes if they don't do it, then we're just kind of relearning.
Interesting. And so then tell us about then your next club, West Ham. What was that like? Compare and contrast that to your experiences at previous clubs.
Yeah, West Ham's a good club. I enjoyed it at West Ham. I did the 14s. Again, I wasn't full time, so it was a bit of a change in terms of the philosophy. Not philosophy, but when you're going from full time to part time, you're not in control. But again, at the same time, you have to follow a system and follow the way, which is, I'm used to doing that anyway. So yeah, the philosophy is, again, about developing individuals, of course, but more in a team structure, in terms of we'll have a theme. So we could have a theme of playing out from the back. It was a lot to do with themes as well. So you have a theme playing out from the back, but then you'll have, you have playing out from the back, but also you have pressing from the front. And the session will be structured in terms of you can kind of create your own session within that, but as long as you plan it and discuss it with other coaches, and then one coach would do one session, then I'll do the other. But I thought what I brought to West Ham was the individual stuff, in terms of ball striking. So I would take players out and do IDP with them and focus on striking the ball, shift and shoot. Maybe I might do a 1v1 scenario where they can have a shot as well. I was really big on that as well, which I took from QPR into West Ham environment.
Tell us about them. So West Ham, how did that work then? Do they have a tactical cycle or something like that every week, or every was a 6-week tactical cycle basically, was it?
Yeah.
So do you remember what that was? What did that look like?
Now you're testing me. So like I said, with the team, we'll focus on, we might do 4 weeks or 6 weeks on 4-4-2, not 4-2, 4-3-3, or depending, players can be adaptable and they might play 3-4-3, depending on the individuals or depending on the week. I can't remember the top of my head, but I know we did focus on some tactical stuff as well. Because it was 11v11, so how we're going to press, what's the press going to look like? The 9's going to press the ball, and the 10 will jump on to the centre back. They're the kind of things that we linked within the session as well.
I mean, what was the main challenges working there? Because obviously, Spurs, Brentford, QPR all have that link. Aussie running Brentford, used to work under Chris, very close with Chris Ramsey as well. Very similar themes. West Ham, a bit different. So different approach. What were the main challenges in that, and then what were your main takeaways, and as a coach as well? Or not necessarily challenges. I mean, for example, when I say I went from Tottenham to Chelsea, very different. I mean,
Yeah.
very different. But it really developed me as a coach. It's opened my eyes. I was a little bit blinkered. I have to really to admit that. Different way of doing things, and it really, opened me up and developed me. But then challenging, obviously, to adapt to that and learn that. I mean, that's what I mean. What were the things, the main takeaways? Because it's a great opportunity, isn't it, to work somewhere different and completely different methodology.
I think for me, it wasn't so much a challenge in terms of, like, I think QPR and Tottenham and Brentford gave me the skills to be adaptable. So no matter what environment I am, I can adapt in terms of what philosophy or whatever. But only, my values, of course. My values growing up is 1v1, 2v2s, be dominated. I think something that stuck with me, and I thought really stuck with me, is the fact that I used to tell the wingers, express yourself, take them on, go 1v1. And after the session or the game, one kid come up to me and said, I've never been told that. So I was like, oh wow, like that's positive for me. But yeah, like I said, the challenge is working with different people. Yeah, it's always going to be not difficult, but you have to adapt, you have to listen, you have to learn. But again, I thought not for me. I thought it was more team rather than individuals. The individual section was there, but it was team based, possession based football, playing out from the back. Counter pressing, defensive. Again, QPR did focus on pressing, of course. Can you swarm the ball? That was the philosophy. Can we press high, 4-3-3? If you're playing with the older ones, everyone locking on. They had, like I said, the three words. Can you stop? Can you score? Can you create? In possession, we had different in possession tasks and out possession tasks. But yeah, I thought West Ham was a good kind of development for my stage, doing it under 13s. I was very adaptable, from coaching there, going from coaching under 16s, under 15s at QPR, then going into doing the 14s. I think I had the skill set to adapt quickly as well. But West Ham are a good club, there were some good people there, top people. You got Callum, you got Kenny, there's a guy called Luke Smith, all top people. And, there was, always listen to my ideas in terms of development. They knew I came from QPR, so I can bring something different to the table. And there were some good players there as well.
So then you've gone from West London to East London, then from East London to the Far East to Yokohama in Japan. So tell us first of all, how did that come about, that opportunity? Richard
Allen was here at Yokohama. So the person that I knew him and said, look, listen, is there any opportunity? Like Richard Allen's leaving. Would I be interested in coming over? And yeah, I said, 100%. What is it going to look like? And then I ended up being in Yokohama. Everything happened really quickly. It just happened really, really quickly. And
so what was the initial role you went over to do then?
So it was individual coach for academy, plus helping out with. So in Japan's a bit different than UK. So they have a schooling system where they start from under 12s, and then below that you got the foundation phase, but it's kind of linked to, like they say, the schooling system, like soccer school and stuff like that. But basically, it's just like a little. I think it's like a development center. So we created a program called Elite program, which is just underneath the academy, where we have, hold all the players and the best ones, and then they go into the academy. So I was helping developing that as well.
So under 12, basically, they have like a big base.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so then, what was your initial thoughts going over there? Do you know what I mean? What were the main, the initial things you thought, wow, this is a little bit different, is it similar? Tell us about the football landscape academy football landscape in Yokohama or Japan when you first landed.
Like I said, the culture was a shock in terms of getting used to, like the environment. Again, I've been Japan before, I understand it a little bit. But I was excited of coaching abroad, so no matter where I was going to go, I think, like I said, I'm very good at being adaptable and learning off other people. So going to Japan wasn't kind of a shock for me. I have to develop, the culture. But going to Yokohama is very similar to academy football, at Spurs or West Ham. they focus a lot on individual. They focus on team, but then they link it to the individual. So, my task was coming in, doing individual sessions within the sessions. So you got a lot on ball striking. I find that in Japan, they don't focus a lot on ball striking. So I noticed it. They do a lot of possession. They do a lot of 2v2, 1v1s. The players, they are very technical in terms of using both feet. And they do a lot of repetition in terms of ball control. They don't really focus on ball mastery, in terms of half an hour of ball mastery. They'll focus a lot on total control. So ball in the air stuff, and then they'll go into a little bit of 1v1s for 3 sets or 30 seconds. And then, it will be very kind of coach driven as well. You got your philosophy, but it's linked to the coaches can do what sessions they want. Very detailed in terms of their planning. So a lot goes into their planning. And they focus a lot on possession. So in terms of trying to get the ball and winning it back, they play 4-4-2. So with the 18s at the moment, they play a lot of 4-4-2, which is a challenge for me because I'm not used to that. But again, you have to be adaptable. And then, they work within that. So yes, it's a 4-4-2, but they might press with a 3. And then it looks different. Playing out from the back, they focus a lot on playing out from the back, having the ball, gaining control.
I mean, what sort of players are they? That are very technical. I mean, for example, you go to certain clubs, you can see the sort of players they recruit. Maybe have a type of player. What sort of players are they? Compared to English players, or you generally see, or any sort of difference, similarities? What's the sort of general makeup of a young Japanese academy player?
Very, very fit. Stamina. They do a lot of fitness here, so a player wouldn't stop running. Very agile, so low center of gravity, can move, can twist. I would say good at passing, good at learning. So I think that's a culture thing in terms of you tell a Japanese player to do A and B, and they'll do it to their best ability. I think what I've noticed in terms of their lacking is you tell a player to do A or B, but then when you tell a player, "Oh, B," just do what you want. That's where they struggle a little bit. But that's my job to kind of help them being creative and set them different challenges as well. So yeah. So I would say very possession based, very receiving the ball, playing side to side. My encouragement was trying to get them to play forward a little bit more in terms of playing into the line. Again, some of them are technically good in terms of 1v1s, but they'd rather pass the ball than take players on.
And how did that work then? I mean, you've gone in as that skills coach across academy. How did you fit into their weekly schedule? What is their weekly schedule, for example, and how did you slip into that?
Like I said, the weekly schedule very similar to England. Every academy team have Mondays off, so they'll train Tuesday. Depends what age group, but they'll train Tuesday. Academy system for me would be Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday they'll have games. And sometimes, more than likely, they'll have 2 games on the weekend. They're big on games in terms of getting players, playing games. Some players might play 2, some might play 1.5. So in terms of that, they're very structured, very aggressive in terms of intensity. They do a lot of running, a lot of sprints, and then that's their makeup.
So, how did you slip into that? So I'm interested, you're working across the age groups, you get in the first 20 minutes, half an hour. How did that work practically for you?
Yeah. So how it worked for me, I would work with different age groups on different days. So part of my role last year was to develop coaches as well. So I'll come in and do different types of presentations, focus on different types of sessions. So I was working a lot with the 14s coach, helping him. Then I'll do a session at the end, so 30 minutes. Sometimes I'll support. So I might do the second session when one coach is doing the other session, or we might split the group on a Tuesday. And then at the end, I'll focus on mainly the strikers and the wingers, getting them to score goals and create goals. And then on a Wednesday, I'll work with the 15s, working with them. And sometimes I'll work with the 18s as well, doing sessions with them, and then taking individuals out at the end of the session, or just between the end, after the game. And then Thursday, I'll work with different age groups as well. So I might work with the 13s. And then on a Friday, depending where they need me, I might work with the 16s or stay with the 14s.
And what was it like moving to the other side of the world and living there? What was the main, challenges to that?
Yeah, that's a challenge. Going to a different country that you don't know, learning the language. I've learned a little bit. I haven't learned as much as I should, but I've got a translator as well. So that's the difficult thing in terms of, like, when I speak, the translator has to speak, so it takes longer for my coaching point to go over, which was at first was a challenge because I had to speak slowly. I had to really break things down and really think about what I'm saying as well. So in terms of kind of, if you say to a player, "Oh, you go press," I had to say that, and then the translator had to say it. So it had to kind of, and the way the translator had to say it had to feel the same passion at what I'm saying as well, which was a challenge. Again, learning language, different types of food. They got sushi and stuff like that, but learning that and kind of getting used to that. Again, being away from family and loved ones is a difficult thing, but again, I like the challenge. And yeah, the weather is different than the UK. I think the seasons here probably hot, or say mid-20s from 10 months in a year.
Lucky you. It's you mentioned there, how hard is it? We chatted about this before we went on there, but you obviously, you got your family, your missus and your kid at home, and so like how difficult is that? Obviously, it's very difficult, but that must be one of the main challenges. And people think coaching is a very glamorous life. It's very glamorous, but the sacrifices you have to make to, make this thing happen.
Yeah, like I said, I've got two kids from my previous relationship.
All right.
So not with them at the moment. But again, you got FaceTime. FaceTime's helped a lot. WhatsApp, FaceTime and stuff like that. Then I got my fiance now, with my relationship now, and yeah, she came over and spent a month with me, so that was good. But yeah, being away from family is difficult. But I think if you got a goal, in terms of what you want to achieve and everyone's supporting you, then I think that would help. So I've got very supportive people around me. So picking up the phone and me going back to England. So last year I went back to England, I think 5 times. So that was good. But yeah, it is difficult. But as long as I think if you've got a goal and know what you're doing, and hopefully this opportunity is not going to last forever. So
yeah,
just keep going to keep every day as it goes. And
yeah, absolutely, man. And what, as it worked then in terms of like the games program, who are the under 12s playing, the 13s, the 14s? Are they playing other academies, local clubs? How does that work?
Yeah, so here they got they've got a league. They play a lot of league football here. So I'm with the 18s at the moment. So the 18s, they haven't got 16s, so they got start from 15s. So the 18s will have an A and a B team. So you got the A team will play in the national. They called it the Premier League, playing against different universities, different academies as well, and then grassroots clubs. So we have a lot of friendlies. We're playing against high schools and universities, and then you'll play against academies. So it's a very mixed development in terms of different styles. You might go and play a university where they're physical, because you've got players there. They're 19, some of them are 20, and they're just route one. So you got to get used to players. Got to be able to head the ball, or they got to get in behind, and they got to deal with that. Or you might play a college team, which is a high school team, where they might play a different shape or different formation. You have to adapt to that. But yeah, it's very kind of league based here.
And what's it like now? You're working with the 18s. What's the level like of the players there in the 18s compared to the boys in London?
Again, physicality. Of course, UK is stronger in terms of physicality, in terms of being strong and powerful. But I think the players here, like I said, technically very good. Can control, can pass, high intensity, and in terms of learning as well. So yeah, the players at Morale are very similar to UK, but some of them are more agile and low centre of gravity. You can drop the shoulder quickly. Again, like to pass the ball. Very good at passing and receiving. And my challenge now is creating scoring opportunities for them and getting in the box and scoring goals.
How's that work then with the other coaches that you work with? How difficult is that in terms of the planning process and stuff? Because obviously, I assume they're doing that in Japanese.
Yeah, so again, we have a lot of we'll have a meeting on a Tuesday planning, and then my translator they'll give me the plan, and then I'll look at it, and then they'll kind of include me in terms of, so the head coach will do the plan, and then I'll fit within the plan. So I might lead, like if he's doing a possession session, he'll split the group in two. I'll take one group, he'll take the other group, and then we'll flip over. And then if the theme is attacking, or attacking in wide areas, then we'll focus on that. They do a lot of line ball here, where rather than using a goal, they'll run the ball over the line. So they do a lot of stuff like that. And then that's how the planning works. We'll talk about the Sunday and Saturday games, and we write like a little report, very similar to the PMA. Again, they'll write that. If I have to write it, I'll write it, and then the translator will pull it up on the system. Again, very similar to UK in terms of meetings and planning. I take a lot of the attacking and wide players doing individual sessions. I'll do that 3 times a week. So that's on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday.
So what is the coach? Tell me, what is the coaching team for the 18s? Then you got the head coach, you got your assistant. Who else is involved in that?
So we've got 4 coaches. So we have the head coach, then it'll be me, then another assistant coach and another assistant coach. So there's 4 coaches with technically 2 groups, so 2 coaches per group. So for example, if the A team goes away, I might go with them, or I might take the B team. So the B team so on this Sunday just gone, I was with another assistant coach. He led the B team and I supported him. And then if we all just focus on the A team, there'll be like 4 coaches on the bench, and how we do it. So, you have the head coach leading the team talk. I will focus on individuals. And then after that, I'll give them different objectives. And then one coach is kind of, working with the back 4. But we all kind of if we see something, we'll tell the coaches, and we come up with different plans and stuff like that.
And what about yourself? What's your ultimate ambitions in the game?
Again, of course, if you speak to a lot of coaches, I want to be a first team coach, and as assistant coach, first team, I want to just experience that one day. That's not just my final goal. Of course, I want to do a national team. But yeah, whatever I do I do like coaching abroad. So, I do like being in England. So it's it's a challenge, but of course I want to be a first team coach one day. But I also want to, be a lead phase again, because I thought that for me was really, really good. Where you got more control, you're managing coaches, I think I did that well in terms of managing coaches, helping them, supporting them. So anything like that, that's what I want to do.
What would your key bit of advice be to a young coach starting up now who wants to have a great career in a game like yourself?
I would say first thing is time on the grass. Make sure you get your hours in. Make sure you're coaching. Watch loads of football. I would say definitely get time on the grass. Watch others coach. Learn off of others. Be adaptable. So you might have a detailed plan, but sometimes that plan don't go to how you want it to be. So, you know, being adaptable, like in terms of your session, don't always, you know, just now and again, just do a session without a plan. Just do it off your head. You know, sometimes do a session with no cones. You know, really kind of challenge yourself and learn off of others. That's what my advice would be.
Hazy, cheers, pal. It's been amazing. Appreciate it, mate.
No, thank you. Thank you, Saul.